Boker Tov. Today's daf is Daf Tzadik Zion in Baba Kama. As we learned from Achenu Basis Row, we're about 3/4 of the way down the page at the two dots we got to yesterday. As Avram asked this question yesterday, and it's immediately answered here. Itmar. Let's say you see somebody else's boat, their ship, you did some work with it, use it for transport or whatever, for a tiul. The owner can either demand its regular hire, whatever the fee is for renting the boat, or he can demand the depreciation if it's gone down in value. Either one, whichever he can take, whichever one he wants, whichever is higher. He can only take the depreciation. It wasn't rented out. Basically, he stole it. So if he stole it, what's the halacha? You got to pay what it was worth. The boat was worth $10,000 when he took it. When he returned, it's worth $9,000. He's got to pay. Give him the boat plus $1,000. Amar Papa, please. Really not a machlokas between Rav and Shmuel. Is it made for rental or not? If it's made for rental, then the owner can demand the higher. If the rental is higher than the damage, he can demand that. He says, I usually rent it out. You took it out for a trip. You got to pay the rental. But if it's not made for rental, he doesn't rent it out normally, so there's no regular price for renting it. He basically stole it. So if it's not made for rental and you seized it, you have to pay the depreciation like a regular goslin. In both cases, it's made for renting, but the question is, what was the intention of the person who took it? So I don't know how they could determine what his intention was, but maybe you could determine the way he took it. If he took it for renting, then he should pay the rental price if that's higher. But if he took it to steal and then he returned it, well, a ganef only has to goslin, or a ganef only has to pay kashas exela. So he only has to pay the depreciation because he acquired it. Basically, remember, if you sold something and it changed its value, that's a shinu. Either the name changed or it got worse and it went down in value. Obviously, you just can't increase its value again. It's not like you can feed the ship. It's not an animal. So it went down in value. You acquired it. That means that you have to return the way you stole it. The way you stole it is it was worth $10,000. If it's worth $9,000 now, you have to pay the $9,000 plus $1,000, but not a fee, even if it was made for renting out. But over here, he took it to steal, so he has the advantage. The ganef actually has an advantage, and he only has to pay the pras, the depreciation, and not that regular hire.
It also applies to an ox.
Anything else, right? Same thing that you brought up yesterday. If you stole an ox and you used it, and it went down in value, and we said yesterday, if you stole an ox and you used it, let's say you turned it a day later, and it didn't change in value. We had that case yesterday that the rabbi, Rav Nachman, gave the guy a fine and said you have to pay half of the increase of the field that they worked with the plowing and all that. So that's not the halach. He says, yeah, but that was a bad guy. He's a regular ganef. I wanted to give him a knas. But basically, if you stole somebody's car or their cow and you worked with it for a day, you returned it, then and there was no loss in value and it didn't cause him any loss. He didn't have to go, hire another one or whatever it was, then it wouldn't be irresponsible. It was a case like that here in Israel where somebody took somebody's car. A guy took a car and he stole the car. The guy came home, found that his car was stolen. Next day, it was returned with a note on it. I'm really sorry. My wife was having a baby. I had to take her to the hospital. I had to take your car, but I'm returning the car. And here are 2 tickets to the theater as a gesture of our appreciation. So they went to the theater and their house was cleaned out. It was a nice operation that the that was a good planned out operation, right? That's what they say. I don't know, but he reminds me of the story. You take somebody's car and return it. No damage to the car, but his house was wiped out. All right. Anyway, Gazel Matei of an Istak. Let's say the Mishnah said that. Let's say you stole a coin. It was cracked. It was broken. So there you have to return. What did the Mishnah say? You got to pay your strakiva sham chasik zayel. You have to pay what was worth then. What about if it was taken out of currency? Right, the government stopped using it as proper currency. So there he said, no, you can say, I'm sorry, it's the same coin, I'm giving it back to you. That's what the Mishnah said. Amrafuna nizdak nizik mamish, literally crack. Nifsal, when it became, I would say, what? Void. Let's say void. Good. The government voided it. Nifsal, paslasamalthus. That means if the government voided it, Okay, but it's still the same coin. You could say, I took this coin, I'm giving it back to you. It was a silver dollar, I'm giving it back to you. No, if the government voided it totally and said you can't use this anymore, it has no use whatsoever, just a piece of metal, that's the same as nizek. That's effectively like breaking it, and you'd have to pay kashas nifsal. What does it mean when the Mishnah said that if you voided it, you could say you give it back? We don't have that so much today, but you could compare it. In other words, it's not good in this country, but it's still good in other countries. In those days, remember, the coins had intrinsic value to them. It wasn't like today where you deal with paper money and the money really has no intrinsic value. In those days, they had intrinsic value. So, but sometimes the government said you can't use this anymore here. The king wanted his own coins, but you could use them in some other country. So in a case like this, that's the case where it's voided now, but it still has some value in there. You can say but if the government totally voided it and you can't use it anywhere, then it's like breaking. That's Rav Huda's shita. Rav Huna. So he said to Rav Huna, according to you, that nifsal means that the government voided it totally. And in a case like why was that different? How was it different than fruits that got rotten? You stole fruits and they rotted, or yayin bechmitz, you stole some wine and that turned bad. It's also like it's totally no good. Now it's totally no good. And there you have to pay the full value of the time that you stole. How is that different than if the government voided the coin, it's worthless now too? Time of there, the taste and the smell has changed. It's not the same wine. It's now wine that turned bad. It's not the same fruits. These are fruits that are rotted. But here it's the same coin. So he says it's the same coin. I don't get if it's the same coin. The government voided it, but I'm giving you back the same coin that I stole, and I'm entitled to do that. That's Rav Huna shita. Amalei Rav or Amalei Rabba Rav Yehuda. Rav Yehuda said that if the government totally voided it, then it is like the coin that was cracked. When we say that the government voided it, you can say it's still worth something elsewhere. You say that if the government totally voided it, it's as if it broke it. What about truma v'nitmas? What about truma that became tamei? It's like it became tamei. It's like the government voided it. It was valid. The truma tasted okay. It's good truma, except that spiritually it's defiled. So same thing over here. How is that different than the coin that was voided? All right. You say that if the government voided it, it's like just crack. What about truma that became tamei? That's like pasas machmas, and still we say over the tani amach. You say shalfanecha. There you can't see the hesek. The truma looks the same. The spiritual defilement is not visible to the eye. Over here you could tell how so. It's not used. You can't use it in the street. Nobody would take this coin. It's not current. As Rashi says near the bottom of the page, all the money that's used now is not the money. You stole from him let's say a silver dollar of 50 years ago, and now you want to return it. There are no coins like that. How you call it? So they were all the same. So here it looks different. Itmar. So we have this machlokas basically, and there's a Rav Yehuda says apparently that if it's totally voided, that's like it's cracked. Itmar. And that's apparently the halacha. Listen to this carefully. You lent somebody some merchandise, right? And you said, you lent somebody the merchandise, and you said that, okay, you're going to take the merchandise and use it. You pay me back with $100. Here's a $100 coin. Okay, on that bad. The coin was voided. Coin was voided. Can he return that coin? Coin isn't worth anything now. What do you say there?
He sold it.
Yeah, no, the merchandise. I'm giving you the merchandise, and you give me back $100. You'll pay me back with $100. But it's not a sale; it's a loan. He says, "I'm lending you this, but you pay me back with that." Not a sale directly. You didn't sell to him, because if you sell to him, it depends by the Mashiach would finish the deal right there. Here he didn't sell. He lent him. He said, "I'm lending you this. I'm lending you this merchandise." Calls it a malbas chavero for this coin. Basically, it's really like a loan. I'm giving you $100 worth of goods, and you'll pay me back the $100 with this coin later on. And the coin was voided. Rav Amar, no slim mateus of us. You got to give him a current coin. You can't give him that same coin. Shmuel Amar, Yachal Amar lechvotzi mishan. You can tell him, listen, we made the deal to give you back $100 coin. or let's call it 100 shekel coin, a coin that doesn't exist, right? 100 shekel coin. So he says, I can give it back to him and say, okay, you could use it somewhere else. It may not be valid here, but as long as it's valid somewhere else. It's not that it's totally no good, but it could be used somewhere else, like in Mishan, in some other place it could be used. In other words, the guy who took the merchandise, who owes him the $100 coin or the 100 shekel coin, can tell him, this coin is not valid here, so use it somewhere else. You can get somebody else.
Does he have to pay bus fare?
Pardon? Bus fare, yeah. Yeah, okay. Okay, so that's okay. Good point. Look at the next line. Amar Nachman, the stuff from Milsa to Shmuel. When Shmuel says that the person who took the merchandise and is paying back with this old coin is probably, and Shmuel says you could pay back with that coin because you can use it somewhere else, is probably the Islay Orchel Mezel mission. He has a way to get to that place. He has a way to get there. No, you can get there and take the coin there. It's reasonable. But if he can't get there, or it's too difficult, whatever, he can't get there, then he's not giving him anything. He's returning nothing. Rav says you got to give him a new coin. You can't use the coin that's not valid anymore. Shmuel says you can give him the old coin because he can use it somewhere else. But that's sort of Nachman says that's only if he can get there. Okay. Aser of Nachman Sarava asks Rav Nachman this question. Why do you say it depends on whether he can get there or not? Ein Machalan Alamos. You have Meiser Sheni in some other place, in Haifa or wherever it is, and you want to deconsecrate it redeem it on money. So Ein Machalan Alamos Einam Yotzef. Can't use it on money that's not current. You can't take it on old money. You got to take real money that's current. Okay, so Hailamos Kuzavios Yerushalmi. Let's say he had old Kuzavios is a London name for Bar Kochva. That he had the old Yerushalmi Bar Kochva coins. They find them in the archaeologists find them now. Bar Koziva, either because that was his place or that was his name, whatever. Anyway, but that's Bar Kochva coins from yesteryear, from from the olden times. Oshamach Mishama from earlier kings. Ein Machal, you can't use it on that because those coins aren't current. It's got to be regular coins that are used now. Hashalachronim Dumya Rishonim. But if it's later coins, which are similar to the earlier ones, in what sense that you can't use them here locally, but they're good somewhere else, Machal, you could, even though it doesn't say you have to have the ability to go there. But Nachman said Shmuel's probably only talking about you can give him the old money. You could say, can't take no money and go somewhere else if he has the ability to get there. Here it's mashma that you can be mechalel it on the Meiser Sheni on coins, even though they're not usable here, as long as they're usable somewhere else, doesn't make it dependent on whether you can get there or not. Rashi says, "Hoshal achronim b'nafkim din acheres v'dimid rishonim u'bakach she'en yotzin kamakom moshel bal ba'is just become mechal." You could ba'afagav the leslie or for loss when you can't get there. Makom she'yotzin sharei b'shalayim sarach. You got to take it to Yerushalayim. Well, let's see it. And that's where you have to spend the money in Yerushalayim. That's the whole idea of Meiser Sheni. You got to take it and buy. You have to buy food with it in Yerushalayim. So he says here it's mashma, even though you can't get there necessarily. It's mashma, it's okay. No, here he's speaking about where we say over here that you could do it, you can haul it on money as long as it's used in some other place where the countries, the various kings and kingdoms are not particular with one another. They let other people's money in there too. Some places are very makbid. You can't take money in out of the country. You can't let other money in. Speaking of area where they're not so makbid, so you could get it there. You could get it to that country. You could take the money and bring it to Yerushalayim also. Shmuel also. So what's Shmuel talking about? That and he says, according to Nachman, that you have to be able to get there. Is speaking about where they are makbid of one another. They don't allow in. So how can you get it there? If the countries are makbid of one another, Nachman says Shmuel says you can use the old coin is only if the guy has a way to get there. But if the countries are makbid upon one another, they don't allow other people's money in there. So how can you get it there? Says the manpli chak. With great effort, you could get it there. The low bakshi, they don't check you too carefully. When you come to the customs there, they don't go through your pockets and check for the different coins. If they find coins, they'll find you and they'll take them away or they'll void them. But that's what he's speaking about, where you could get there. Okay, Toshma, based on this whole idea, the food that you're mechal, the Meiser Sheni money, where is that? It could be talking about in Bavel. If you hold that there's Meiser Sheni board there too, whatever the food was, but it's from Haifa or Tel Aviv or Bavel, whatever. You're not mechal on money of Yerushalayim, behind Bavel, if the people are in Bavel. V'shel Bavel behind Kan, or you can't be mechal on money of Babylonian money if the people are here. Shabavel v'heim b'Bavel, but if it's used Babylonian money in Bavel, you could be mechal. Okay, telling me it's ein mechal on Mos Shalkan v'heim Bavel. You can't be mechal on Yerushalayim money if the people are in Bavel. Afagav the Suffolk Mess, even though eventually you're going to come to Yerushalayim. So what do you see over here? That if you're going to, you can't be mechal even though the money could come there. Rashi says, "En mechal Shalkan v'heim Bavel." En mechal ma'aser sheni al Mos shel Shalkan Yerushalayim v'Mos v'Abaylim v'Bavel. Ben Yotzim Yad Makom Shein Sham the Bein Matsubiach. It's got to be Veleka. V'lo al shel Bavel ve'en kam shel Yerushalayim v'Peris. We don't care the Peris. Okay, if this is Yachal Chalan, then Chutz Yerushalayim. Telling me is ein mechal al Mos Shalkan in Bavel. You can't be mechal on Yerushalayim money if the people are in Bavel. Alma afagav v'islay urchel meishan. There's a way to go. There could go nachal the sofalas. You have to come to Yerushalayim with your food eventually, with the money, and buy food in Yerushalayim. Kan let's say it's not considered Mos Yotzeh. So how could Shmuel, again interpreted by Rav Nachman, saying that as long as you can get there, the money's okay. Even if the money's not good here, it's good over there. Here you see that even though they want to be mechalel on Yerushalayim money, but they're in Bavel, it's no good. Even though they have to bring it to Yerushalayim eventually, and you still say it's not good. Some have the gears lahacha because they really come to Yerushalayim. Here they are makbid. They don't. The Israeli government, the Jewish government doesn't allow foreign money in, and vice versa. If that's the case, why do you say if they're in Bavel, they could be mechala on Bavel money, but they can't bring the money to Yerushalayim? So how are they going to do that? If you say the countries are makbid, they can't bring one another. How can you be mechala if you're in Bavel and you have Meiser Sheni there? And it says there you could be mechala on Babylonian money if you're in Bavel, right? But how are you going to bring it to Yerushalayim? My chazu. Chazu the zav, you can't bring the money to Yerushalayim if they're makbid. And the chazu the zaven, my chazu the zaven bu behema o masik yusham. You could do this. You can't bring the money, but you could buy an animal. Animals are all the same, right? Yeah, you can't bring it. They don't do that. That's what we're saying. With the countries are makbid, they don't exchange. They didn't have money changers always. In this case, that Yerushalayim, the government of Yerushalayim did not allow foreign money in. Period. Like some governments till modern times still do that. They don't allow any money in. And this government, and when we made Aliyah 40 years ago, you weren't allowed to hold foreign money. Rabin lost his first prime ministership on that because he had a very accountant in Washington. Yeah, you couldn't do today. It's okay, but in those days you couldn't do it. So there were foreign currency rules. So here's the thing, but if you have foreign currency rules, even if you're in Babylon and you exchange it on Babylonian money, how are you going to bring it on to Yerushalayim? The answer is, I'll tell you what you do. You're supposed to bring it to Yerushalayim and spend it here. What he could do is he could buy an animal in Bavel and schlep the animal to Yerushalayim. Masik and bring it to Yerushalayim. Vatanya, we learn. How can you say that you're not? Vatanya, we learn. Iskinu sheik kolamos yosef Yerushalayim. They made a takana that all money is accepted here in order to encourage people to bring their ma'aser shein here. All money was accepted here. Mekach said everybody should bring their money here. When the Jews were in charge, they allowed all money in. But when the Goyim were running things over here, they didn't allow the money to come in. So that was the way to do it. Okay, so we have this machlokas between Rav and Shmuel. If you were supposed to pay back with the coin and the coin was voided, but it's still good somewhere, Rav says you still use a current coin. Shmuel says as long as you can get to that place, it's okay. What's the matbei of Yerushalayim? What was the coin of Yerushalayim? I guess that was current at that time. David Shlomo mitzarecha, a picture of David Shlomo on one side. Yerushalayim Yerakodesh mitzarecha, and a picture of Yerushalayim Yerakodesh on the other side. Eza matbei shel Avram Avinu. I guess they were these coins were good at certain times, but he's just defining them what they are. The matbei of Yerushalayim had David and Shlomo on one side, Yerushalayim Yerakodesh on the other side. Eza matbei shel Avram Avinu. What was the matbei of Avram Avinu? Zakim Zkenim mitzarecha, an elderly man and woman representing Avram and Sarah on one side, Ubachar Psula and Yitzchak and Rivka, a picture of them, or a form of them on the other side, Mitzarach. Okay. Boy Mine Rav Meir Shapiro, we're not done though. According to Rav, who said what? That you have to use a current coin to pay back if the coin was voided, even just in this locality. Boy Mine Rav Meir Shapiro, Hamalvis Chaver al Mateya. Okay. You lend somebody this question, Hamalvis Chaver al Mateya. You lend somebody some merchandise, and they were supposed to pay it back with a coin. Here's $100 worth of merchandise. You'll pay me back with $100 coin. And the coin was not voided. The coin was made larger. The coin was made larger. I want you to pay me back with $100 coin. And the coin was, the government made the coin bigger, more metal, more silver, whatever's in there, nickel, whatever. Let's see the amount. According to Rav, Rashi explains, the Kash is according to Rav. Rashi, a few lines from the bottom of the page. Halibid Rav, the Omer knows no Mateo Os Shaw. You got to give him the current one. What would Rav say there? If you give him a bigger coin, isn't that a problem of ribbit? You're giving him more back, right? You're giving him more back. So that's the question. So my Omerlo knows no Mateo Hayos Shaw. So you got to give him the current coin, even though it's bigger. Even if it's as big as a sieve, in other words, the coin was much, much bigger. Yeah. Even if it's a very, very large one, I should sell a gadol. The mida mecheskes roba can hold the roba cup, a very large coin. Give them the pay rate, but you're going to get a lot more fruits for this amount of money. The fruits are much cheaper now. It's ribis. In other words, let's say with the original amount, he gave him a bushel of fruits and says, "You're going to pay me back with this $100 coin." Now the coin was made so big that he could buy 2 bushels or 3 bushels of fruits. So isn't that ribit? Amravashi Chazina, we check it out. If the fruits now are cheaper, meaning cheaper relative to that money, because the money is bigger. The money is a bigger amount of money. It's not like today. It's hard to understand because in our day the money is whatever the piece of paper says on it. But in those days, the money was worth the weight of the silver, right? Right? Remember, it was like in the Civil War. The coins had weight to them. Just kidding. Even in our time, the coins had intrinsic value to them. Because Island pay rate. In other words, Rav Ash says if it's because of if it's because of the coinage that the fruits are cheaper, meaning that you can buy much more fruit for this coin because the coin is bigger. Like we do deduct. We take if I gave you a bushel of fruits and I said give me back $100, and now the $100 is worth $200 or $300 because it's a much bigger coin. So we deduct it. We only give you what you would buy a bushel of fruits for today. The imachmas tira. But if it's not because of that, if it's because of simply the market supplies, Rashi says, for example, let's say it was a rainy season and there was a bumper crop and there was so much supply. What happens when there's a big supply? The prices go down, and that's why you can get more. So we don't deduct it for it. In other words, I give you $100, give me back $100. How you can buy more with it now? That's because the supply is different. But he's still giving him more metal. I gave you a bushel that was worth an old $100 coin, right? Which had, 2 grams of gold in it. And now you're getting a coin back that has 6 grams of gold. So you're still getting more. Huh?
How did the coin get bigger?
No, they made it bigger.
Who's there?
The government made it bigger.
When they made the loan, the coin was there.
No. I'm giving you a bushel and it's worth $100, and you're going to owe me a coin of $100 when you pay me back.
The coin isn't there.
The coin's not there now, but you're going to give me.
Never there.
The coin was never there, but the coin I gave it to you in January, and you give me back $100 coin then. It comes to April when you returned it, the coins changed, and the coins are now the government made a much bigger coin. They made a bigger coin. They changed. They went to the mint. Where are the mints in Philadelphia?
So you really
Huh?
You weren't
not the Franklin Mint. That's a private company.
You weren't.
You got suckered into buy from Franklin Mint. It's one of my competitors once. The Franklin Mint. That's not a real. That's a private company.
You weren't loaning it on a particular coin. You were loaning it on the value of a coin.
Well, but the idea was you're supposed to return $100 coin to me. That's how you're going to pay me back. And now this $100 coin had 3 times as much metal in it. So that was the problem. Forget about the fact that with a bigger supply or you could buy more with it for whatever reason. You're getting a much bigger coin. You owed me a 2-gram coin. And now you're giving me back a 6-gram coin because that's the only coin that's there. These 2 rabbis, that when they did exchanges with money, when they the Agard Midas Taya, that was a name. He was like an Arab money changer, an Arab market. He made the market there. Ad Yud B'Timnaya for 8 for 10 for 8. What does that mean? So Rashi tells us, take a look at Rashi in the third line. And they made it bigger. They went to this merchant, that was his name, Akademidas. He was a well-known merchant, and he did exchange. And what happened was he had the old money and the new money. In other words, he said the old coins, if you had 10 of the old coins, you can buy 8 of the new ones, because the new ones were bigger. You get 8 ones. So he says that's the deal. In other words, when you're getting more metal, you have to exchange, you have to do a proper exchange. Tosfos goes into Arichos to explain that it's only that way, meaning if it's like 12, or according to Rashi, that's if you have 11 or 12 down to 8, then you got to give them only the new ones 8. But if it's from 9 to 8, if it's like up to a 25% milibar, like 10 to 8 on the outside is 20% more, right? It's 25% from the inside, 20% from the outside. So up to there, then you do the exchange. But if the difference was less, then you would accept it. So he's saying, so back to our question, you lent him money, you lent him these fruits, whatever, and you say you're going to pay me that $100 coin, and the coin was made bigger. If there's a real big difference, yeah, you got to take that into consideration and see what the exchange is now and give him a proper thing, which is what logic tells us. Amar Rabba. Now Rabba held, and a bunch of cases are going to come up now. Rabba says that Groma ben Ezekiel is potter. We hold that if you do indirect damage, you didn't do it necessarily on purpose, but it was indirect. If it was indirect, then you're not responsible. That's the general idea. Groma ben Ezekiel is potter. Okay, so what happened over here? Here's the story. We're in the fifth line on Sadik Chesed Alf now. Amar Rabba. We'll see. It didn't mean you took it. You took it out of his hand or out of his pocket and threw it. You deflected it into the Mediterranean Sea. You were with your friend on the ocean on the beach, and he pulled out some money, and you said, "Let me see that." And you deflected his hand, and the coin fell into the ocean. So, what's the halacha there? Amar Rabba, you don't have to pay my time. My time. Amar, because the person who did the deflection, the damager, it's right in front of you. It's right in the ocean over there. Go take it. So that's if the water is clear and you could see it. And Rashi says, even though he might have to hire a diver to go take it, but as long as you can see it, as long as you can see it, that's a you have to dive. That's already grumma. That's already indirect damage. Grumma is seeking his potter. The chazla, you could see it. But if the water is turbid or muddy, low, because then effectively you took it away from him. You caused my money to get lost. Oh, yes, I deflected it, but you say it was an accident. Accidents aren't potter when it comes to the zekin, right? When it comes to you're responsible for what you did. And here you did you caused him a direct damage because you basically lost his money. It's like you burned up the money, you threw it away down the toilet. If it's clear, so you could say, hey, the money, it's right there. Go get it. But if it's not clear, you can't see it. That's only if he deflected it, meaning he indirectly caused it, like with his hand, with the back of his hand or whatever, he did it. Rashi says it in the previous Rashi. This guy hit him under his hand, and it flew into the ocean. Deflected it, and it flew into the ocean. That's when he would not be responsible. But if you took it out of his hand, you took it out of his pocket, makes it look like you stole it. If I stole it, I took your coin out of your pocket or out of your hand, out of your wallet, whatever, and threw it away. I stole it. I got to return it. I can't tell you go look for it yourself. I stole it. I have to return it. All right. So that's what Rabba said. That idea that Ram Zikas Potter. Masav Rava. So Rava asks this kasha. Ein machalin al mos she'ena b'shuso. You can't, again, talk about Ma'aser Sheni. You can't redeem the Ma'aser Sheni produce, which has kedusha, right? You can't redeem it for money or deconsecrate it by taking the kedusha of the food and putting it on the money. If it's not in your possession, Kesad. Let's say you had some money somewhere else. In other words, a coin has to be in your possession. I don't know how they do it today. They have these services. I have my own coin for my Shani money because they take it was mices, but we pay this. I forgot what it's called. Mina Aretz. How do they do? They have a coin for you, whatever. I guess they have some halachic basis for that. Ketzal Hayomos, because he had money somewhere else. Or Bahara Melech, he cast for some place, or Haramelech, Ocean or your wallet fell into the Mediterranean. You can't be machal on that. So right, you can't do that. So what do you see? That even though you can retrieve it, you said before that if I deflected your coin into the Yamagadol, into the Mediterranean, as long as it's visible, I could say, go take it. I didn't take it from you. But over here, which means that it's like it's right there. I didn't take it away from you. Here you see that if it's in Yamagadol, you can't be machal. Meiser is different to be in a matzu. It's got to be in your hand. It's got to be found right there. The Rahman Amar, Shem said that you should bind the money in your hand. So if it's not in your hand, if you don't have immediate access to it, even if it's in the ocean and you can retrieve it, but it's not in your hand, that's different. It comes to Meiser Sheni, so you don't have that. Meiser Sheni is different. But basically, if I deflected your money into the ocean and it's visible, I could say go take it because it's the damage I've caused you is only indirect. Yama Rabbah. Another thing that Rabbah said. Listen to this. Hashaf matei shechaver. Again, all these shitas are going to be things that Rabbah said where you caused indirect damage. Hashaf matei shechavero. If you disfigured somebody's coin, putter. Now, I don't know if we're talking about, I don't know if he would say that today, because today the coins don't have intrinsic value. When we think about our coins today, they don't have an intrinsic value. We just, we by design, we say this is 10 shekels, this is 2 shekels, this is 50 cents, this is a quarter. They still have 50-cent pieces. I don't know. I don't think they have pennies anymore. They don't use, nobody uses them. Everything is plastic or whatever on your phone, but whatever. But in those days, the coins were worth something. There was intrinsic value, amount of silver or copper or whatever. So let's say you disfigure the coin, you're putter. Why? Because the coin still has intrinsic value. My time, you didn't do anything. You didn't do anything because even though you've hammered it, let's say, right? You've hammered it down. It's all the metal's still there. That's only when you flattened it with a hammer, the tarshe, right? You smashed it. You struck it with a hammer, the tarshe, and you flattened it. But let's say you filed it. You filed it with a file, meaning that means that you've already diminished some of the metal. That's different. That's you've caused the metal to be diminished, and you're chayiv to pay. So Rabbah's saying basically, we understand if you diminish the metal, and you've caused damage, right? You're chayiv. But if you simply flattened it, again, today I don't think you'd say that because today by flattening it and you lose the tzura, it wouldn't be worth anything. No bank, nobody would take it. No store would take it. Huh?
They are worth by the weight.
That's right. It's worth it. Right, but that's not our regular coinage. Regular coin. If you take a 10 shekel piece, somebody gives you a 10 shekel piece, and you smash it so that you can't see the tzura or anything, nobody would accept it. It's worth it. You can't put it. Yeah, it doesn't work. Right. So Massive Rava. Okay, but here he says if you just flatten it, it still has the metal there. It's okay. Scrub Massive Rava and call al eno. Let's say we had this before. Let's say you hit the Eved on his eye, the someone you blinded him, or you hit him on his ear, and you deafened him. Eved goes out free, right? Because Eved Kanani goes out b'shein v'ayin. Keneged eino v'eino. Let's say you only hit it near his eye. We said, remember, you banged the wall near his eye, or keneged also v'eino shemei eino v'yasmecheres, because we said that Eved contributed by his being frightened. He contributed to his own loss of hearing or sight. Fine, but if you hit him on his eye or on his ear, even though there's no visible loss, there's no physical damage here at all, right? Still, you say that you're chayiv. So what do you see? Even if there's no physical loss, like when you smash down the coin and you flattened it, even though there's no loss of metal, you still should be chayiv. So no, Rabba Tameid Amar Rabba Chorsho La'aviv Nerag. If you deafened your father, you're killed. It's impossible to deafen him without some bruise inside, the tough sadama nafas bosne, because some drop of blood. When you deafened your father by hitting him on his ear, probably there was some blood internal. It was an internal wound. Therefore, you drew blood, and therefore you chayav misa for hurting your father. So the same thing over here. He says there is some physical disfigurement in the case of the ear or the eye, whatever. You just don't. Maybe not visible to the eye, But in the case of disfiguring a coin, there is no loss. The metal is all still there, and therefore yes, it might cause you more difficult to exchange it, but that's already grama. Grama benezikin is potter. That's what Rabba maintains. Yom Rabba, another thing that Rabba said. Again, these are all these cases are grama benezikin. Hatzarim ozen paraso shechavero. You split the ear of your neighbor's cow. Your potter. Now, why? Because the cow, my time, the animal doesn't. Any work that the animal does is not affected by having a little wound on his ear, right? Right? You haven't done anything. Yes, you've ruined it from bringing it as a carbon. If this, now we're not talking about a para. He really means para kadakam. It doesn't really mean para. It means his par, right? Because we're talking about a firstborn male animal, bring it as a carbon, right? He said that the firstborn male that you have to bring as a carbon to give to the Kohen, right? The Bechor shor is a par, not a para. So I guess the word para is here used loosely.
It could be for shlom.
No, we're talking about here, right? Okay, as a carbon, right? You're right. It could be for shlom. That's right. It doesn't have to necessarily mean a Bechor. You're right. It could be for puzzle as a carbon. Correct. Para is correct. I take it back. You're right. It doesn't have to. I was thinking of a Bechor. You're ruining the Bechor, but you're ruining any animal, right? Going from they're not all set for bringing as a carbon. So it's not a problem, right? It's not a problem because they don't all have to be brought as karbanos. So I haven't caused you any loss, and therefore, yeah, you can't use it as a carbon, but fine. So you find some other animals a carbon, so I haven't caused you a direct loss, and therefore this is also gramatik in your pot. Masav Rava. Let's say he did work with the water of a chattas, we're talking about the water that's used in the para aduma. You can't use it at all. You can't use it as a weight or anything. With paras chattas, so either in the water of the chattas, paras chattas, you're potter mideni adam chayv ne'en shemayim. You're potter mideni adam because there's no physical loss. You're b'chayv ne'en shemayim because loss. Malacha hudalo make your azeka. When you did malacha with it, you can't see the hesek. Abel tzoram, but over here when you split his ear to make your azeka, you can see the hesek. Mashmachanami, you would be chayiv. Chayiv mideni adam, you should pay for that. So it's a kasha on Rab, and the answer is no. Amri who didn't have tzoram potter. If you tzoram also potter. Midine adam. But Kamash Malan, the Chiddush is that Malacha, the Lomiker Seika. When you did Malacha with the Paras Chatas or the Mechatas, even though you can't see the Ezek, you're still Chai B'din Shemayim. That's the Chiddush. The Chiddush is you're Chai B'din Shemayim. But Pot B'nei Adam would be in all cases. Yom Rabba, another thing that he said. Asar of Shtar Shel Chavero. Let's say I have an IOU, that this guy owes me money, and you burnt that IOU. Asar of Shtar Shel Chavero, you're Potter paying. Why? What are you going to say? Did you burn my money? No, you burned up the IOU. All I did was I burned your piece of paper. I'll pay you for the paper. What's the case over here? The ikasadi, the yadai, the other I have shtar. If there's Adam that know was in the shtar, we're not talking about the Adam who saw the transaction, the loan take place, but the Adam who know was in the shtar. So from shtar, okay, they can write another shtar testifying to what was in the first shtar. It's not the same. It doesn't maybe have the same power as Adam who testified about the loan itself. Because says we're not dealing with that right now. That the Adam but they know what was written in there. So what's the problem? And make another star. This guy burnt it up. What loss is there? And if there's no witness who was in there, how do we know what to pay? You burned up my IOU. And so I said, look, I had an IOU. This guy owed me $100. How do we know it was $100? Maybe it was 5 cents. How do I know what the loss is? If there's Adam who saw it, who know it was in there, let him write another star that we saw this star written that had a star that had an IOU of $100. And if there's no Adam, how do we know what to collect? Anamiya, how do we know? Amarava, Tevamino. Speaking about where he believes him. In other words, he believes the Balashtar Lesoref Bakomasha Omer Shakacha Yakasabo. The one the Balashtar believes him, right? Asoref Balashtar. In other words, the one who burns it, he turns it around. The one who burned it, okay, I believe that was written in there. I believe it was written there, but I didn't cause you any loss. That was written in there, but I didn't burn the money. So today, I mean, he believes him. I'm going to be Machanina. Okay, so that's what Rabbah says. Rabbah says that if you burn somebody's star, you don't have to pay for the loss of money. Maybe you pay for the paper, but you can't pay for loss of money. And he believes it was written there, but still, it's an indirect loss. Amar Dimi, the fourth line, Baruch Hanina. It's actually a machlokas here. This Rabbah says your potter is a machlokas of Shem Rabbanan. Something which can cause a loss yes, you didn't burn the money, but you burned something which is going to cause me a loss. I won't be able to collect $100 from that schlepper that owes me the money. According to Rav Shimon, you have to pay the whole $100 when there's no question about what was written in there. Yes, he admits that there was $100 written in there, but I burned it by mistake. I used it for for cigarettes or whatever. I burned it. Right? So according to Rav Shimon, you'd have to pay because it's called Lo, you wouldn't have to pay. In other words, you wouldn't have to pay. It'd be like Rabbi said. Again, Rabbi with all those cases, and Amar Aleph talking about Rabbi saying that the Gram Mazikin is part of Maskell or Rafuna. So Rafuna has this kasha. Right, Rabbi Yeshua. Rav Shimon, where does Rabbi Shimon say the davar garmin could come and dummy? The davar that's causes that something which can cause a loss of money is like money, but davar sheikramam, something that has intrinsically has value. Let's say you stole chametz from somebody before Pesach. The chametz has value. It's a loaf of bread, right? If the guy burnt it on cholamoy, then he's potter because there's no loss. Nobody's allowed to have chametz on Pesach. Everybody has to burn it. The guy who burnt your chametz on Pesach is doing you a favor, right? You're supposed to burn it too. La'achar Pesach. Let's say it's a chametz after Pesach. Now you might say, isn't chametz after Pesach? So that's an issue drabanan, right? That's an issue drabanan that chametz shavuot of Pesach. But la'achar Pesach he burns it. Machlokas Reb Shimon drabanan. It's a machlokas Reb Rabbanan. Reb Shimon the one who holds that that's something. This is a loss of money. Why? Because you could pay back somebody with that loaf of bread, even though it's not worth anything after Pesach. It wasn't worth anything on Pesach, but you could use it to pay back a loan after Pesach. Let's say it was a goy or whatever. And the Rav Shimon chayev, right? So you chayev to pay now when you burned it after Pesach because that had intrinsic value to it, and it could cause a loss because I could have used that bread to pay back, let's say, a goy. The Rabbanan da'ami davra agarim and lav kamam dami. That's something that lost doesn't mean you're potter. Right? So that's where we have machlokas Rav Shimon and the Rabbanan. Rav Shimon says, and when you burnt the guy's IOU, you'd have to pay. But over here, when you burnt the IOU, which had no intrinsic value, it was just a piece of paper, does Rav Shimon say over there, so therefore he disagrees, and he says that everybody would agree over here you wouldn't have to pay. Rav Meir says, the one who's Rav Meir holds that even indirect damage you have to pay for. You can collect with it as if it was a proper good star. All you can collect is the value of the piece of paper, like toilet paper. You're not going to be able to collect it. There was a story of a Kafi Rafam Rav Ashi, and he forced him like the beams in a fancy place. In other words, it's a way of saying he collected him, made him collect like top value, top value. Right? So if you hold like Rav Meir, it says what even direct image. So we're saying over here, even Rav Shimon knows that it's davar garmin. It's only when there is intrinsic value, like a loaf of bread. But over here, where there is no intrinsic value to the paper, it's worth nothing, basically, pennies, whatever. Then you wouldn't be able to collect. Everybody would agree with Rabbah. But the Gemara says, Maimer says that according to a mayor who holds done din agami, that even something indirect damage you can collect, he would collect menasar for zashtar sharigam lavsit. Bachu Rav Mashi sasar shtar chaver bialduse bagmine ki guvaina ma'alya komashikos v'shtar collect them ki kishur l'tzam Rashi's peron gomer minaidis, like from the best stuff, the gorazu hanefcheres misharkos, like this beam which is more choice than the other ones. They're talking about surah of because you can use it for paintings and things of that sort, for sculptures, whatever. You collect with it like top value, top dollar. All right, we'll stop here. We'll leave some of tomorrow's daf for tomorrow, right? This is tomorrow's daf, but we have 2 short days coming up, tomorrow and Friday, very short, with a very long daf. So I wanted to get a little bit ahead, right? Because Friday, of course, is Rosh Chodesh. So hopefully tomorrow we can get into Friday's daf also. Bezrat Hashem. Have a good day, everybody. Kol tov.